All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your interest in Windsor, Virginia. Windsor's a great little rural community, and it is on a large thoroughfare. We have a lot of traffic passing through, and I just want to make the statement that everyone should feel comfortable as they pass through the town of Windsor, whether they're inhabitants, residents, or residents of other areas. Any of you that were here last night realize that the town council met at length on this item in closed session, the first time that they've been able to meet on this event since the news broke, and they displayed their full support of Chief Rodney Riddle, as do I, in getting the police department back on track after this event and after him rebuilding the department since 2016. So we'll be glad to answer your questions after that statement. Thank you.
I guess the big question a lot of people have is, this incident happened back in December, and the officer Gutierrez wasn't terminated until this past Sunday. Can you explain why it took so long for that to happen?
Sure, there's a number of factors to it. The incident occurred on December 5th. An internal investigation was launched on December 8th. That investigation was concluded internally on January 28th. Disciplinary action was taken. And as things continue to unfold, we got to a point Sunday where I lost faith in his ability to continue to serve the community to the standards that we expect it to be to. The bottom line is we're a small community. We're 2,600 people. We know just about everybody here. That's why we have good relationships within our community itself, is our ability to interact with people. And that was destroyed by the social media posting, the media coverage of it. There was no way in my mind that he could ever engage in this community in an effective manner beyond that day.
Had you seen the video prior to Sunday or this weekend?
Yes, sir. We conducted an internal investigation that began, and I have viewed the video multiple times.
So you knew for, I guess, months since the investigation ended about what was on the video. A lot of people might say, you knew then. Why didn't you act then?
We did act then. As I stated earlier, we concluded our internal investigation on January 28th. We took disciplinary action at that point. As this thing kind of gathered legs and became viral, I personally felt that there was no way he could effectively serve our community anymore at that point.
So Chief, if I'm hearing you correctly, two questions out of that. What disciplinary action was taken originally? And it kind of sounds like had the video never gotten out, that you would have still had confidence that he could serve the public even after you.
I can't get into the disciplinary matters. That's a personnel issue. What I can tell you is that the video was released to Mr. Nazario's attorney in mid-December. There's been no attempt to hide this or keep this from anybody. They've had possession of it for well over 4 months. In my police career, I've never seen agencies conduct investigations and post the results of those investigations for the public, or the results of internal matters that they review. And so that would have been outside the scope of our normal policy and operating procedure.
But that's not necessarily what I'm asking. But I appreciate you saying that. What I'm asking is, it appears the issue that led to his firing was not what you saw in the video that sparked the outrage. It was the outrage in the video itself. And you say you lost confidence after that. So I'm just trying to gauge to make sure I'm hearing that correctly. It wasn't the conduct that got him fired. It was the video that got him fired.
As a result of all those things, I've lost my confidence in him to be able to effectively engage this community.
Has Officer Gutierrez, has he done anything since December?
Can you take that? I can't hear you, sir.
Has Officer Gutierrez done anything since that December 5th incident that would make you question his ability to effectively police this area before you made your decision now and after, again, that incident with the lieutenant?
No, sir, nothing specific.
Do you believe that the actions alone only required disciplinary action? Do you believe
can you rephrase that for me? And
Were the actions seen by Officer Gutierrez in the video grounds for termination on their own, or was it only because the public would not be able to trust him anymore?
I believe it's a, let me preface that with this. When I watched the video, there were some things in that video where we missed some serious opportunities. There were things that had led up to that traffic stop. There were certain actions that Mr. Nazario took that raised red flags for those officers based on their training, that they may be dealing with something beyond an ordinary run-of-the-mill traffic stop. Those officers initially reacted relatively well, in my opinion. And as the event unfolded, there were some moments there where the use of force continuum, escalation of force, de-escalation of force, they actually were doing it. They came out with their firearms. Officer Gutierrez transferred to his taser, then eventually to his pepper spray, and they went hands-on. So that's coming down the use of force continuum. What they missed, though, was the opportunities to verbally de-escalate that situation, to engage Mr. Nazario in a positive manner and use language to gain compliance from him. The term ride the lightning. Now, I take that based on my police career as a reference to an electronic control weapon or a taser. That's not how it's done. That was inappropriate. It created an unnecessary fear in Mr. Nazario, perhaps. And those kind of comments, they don't serve any purpose. They don't serve any purpose to de-escalate that situation. They don't serve any purpose to build a matter of trust between the officer and the suspect that they're engaged with. And furthermore, those kind of comments just continue to erode an already very rocky relationship that the police have with the public in this time. I was speaking with a pastor here at a church yesterday, and what we talked about was, we can't fix what's going on in this nation. We can't fix what's going on in the Commonwealth, but we can sure get to work on what's going on here in Windsor. And we missed some opportunities. And when he told him, he said he was afraid. He said, you should be. And that was inexcusable. That upset me. It made me mad. Because there, yet again, is another opportunity to de-escalate that thing from a verbal standpoint and change the outcome of that incident. Excuse me. It could have not gotten to the point that OC spray was deployed. They missed those opportunities. And it's bad. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help the community. It doesn't have any place in law enforcement. And those kind of things are just intolerable. I mean, yes, it upset me. And it's upset the members of the police department. It's upset the members of the community. It's now upsetting, at this point, the nation and the world. I haven't spoken to y'all as of yet, but what I will tell you is I'm not tone deaf. I listen well to what I'm hearing. I've received input from different groups. We've been inundated with phone calls, emails for the last 5 days. The amount of it is just absolutely unbelievable. And I'm listening to what folks are saying. I understand their concerns. I understand some of the things that they feel. And we're going to work to fix it. That's all we can do at this point. That incident is out there. It's over. It's done. We can't take it back. We can't fix it. But what we have is an opportunity to build, to grow, to improve, to teach our officers, to get some more input from our community. I've been in touch with the Virginia Associations of Chiefs of Police. I've been working there closely with them to line up some training to come in and work with our officers to make sure that we're delivering what is an acceptable and expected level of service to our community. That's a standard that we've held for a very long time. This incident is not a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly occurrence in this town. It's a one-off incident, and unfortunately, it is what it is. And we've got to do better. We've got to work harder. We're looking at some implicit bias training that we're going to get going, some de-escalation strategies. And again, de-escalation is more than just where the officer utilizes force. It's the ability to see that bigger picture, to make a connection with an individual that they're engaged with, and get a positive outcome to it. We're going to talk about a little bit of dynamics of citizen encounters. We're going to get some training that's based on that. At the end of the day, each and every one of these incidents that we have, or each and every call that we go to, it's an encounter. It's a citizen, it's an officer, it's an opportunity to build a relationship. I will tell you that the officers exercise their discretion in not charging Mr. Nazar yet. We have run this police department for a long time on what we consider to be an end game philosophy. What are we doing at the end? What is the end objective of every call for service? If we go to a call for service and we're dealing with a criminal event, does it necessarily mean that we need to get that person into the criminal justice system? Or is there something else we can do to resolve the situation and move along? So going forward, that's where we're headed, is continue down that path. We've got work to do. We know we got work to do. There's been some damage to our relationships with the community here, and we got to get back on track to fix it. I appreciate the council's support, the manager's support in backing me. We will be open and transparent about how we do it. We're going to reach out to our community stakeholders, get input from them. We're cooperating with Virginia State Police's investigation into the matter. We spent most of the day Monday turning over materials to them to facilitate that investigation, and we're waiting on the results of that. Been contacted by the Attorney General's office here in Virginia and their community civil rights unit. They want to do some records searches and go back and look through our stuff historically to ensure that there's no patterns of discriminatory and abusive police behavior. I invite it. There's nothing there. There's nothing there for them to find. This is a small 7-man police department. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week covering this community. These officers love the folks here. We love this community. We've been here a long time. When I took over in 2015, I had a train wreck on my hands. I've worked very diligently to continue to build the reputation of the police department, to professionalize it. I take pride in that. And I will tell you, it's bad. That video is horrible. It doesn't speak well to the way the police officers handled the situation. They could have handled it better. Ultimately, we're going to make sure that goes on, and we're going to get them the training that they need to do that. And I'm hopeful that this will provide us with some of the other mechanisms that we need. In a 7-man police department, we have no administrative staff. I don't have any secretaries to answer phones. I don't have anybody to return emails. I'm the HR manager, the payroll guy. I handle it all. My lieutenant handles it. We work to try to do all those little things, and we get behind on some stuff, policies, paperwork. I'm hoping that this will facilitate our ability to grow some of these things and get some funding. I know back in July when all the new laws came out, some of the VACP stances was we can't afford to cut funding to the police departments. If we want to increase transparency, if we want to increase training, and we want to increase the ability of officers across the country, whether here locally in the town of Windsor, Isle of Wight County, the Commonwealth, we have got to give them the funding that they need in order to facilitate that training, to give these people the skill sets that they need to go out here and do the job at the service levels that we expect. And we're a small town. Taxes haven't been raised here in 20 years. So we're fighting a battle trying to get our hands on funding to do things, to give our officers the tools and the skills that they need to go out and have safe encounters with the citizens.
Chief, is there a federal investigation into this incident? And can you also explain why the second officer was not, why you handled the second officer differently?
All right, so a little background on Officer Crocker and Officer Gutierrez. While both are new to the department in the last year, Officer Gutierrez is an experienced officer. He was serving in the role of a field training officer. Officer Crocker had just graduated from the police academy back in October and was still in his field training phase and what we call the shadow phase. One of the things in watching the video is watching Officer Crocker. And if you've watched the video, you'll see there's several times in the video where Officer Crocker makes an effort to de-escalate that situation verbally with his mouth. He changes his pitch, his tone, his demeanor. That is somebody right there who has the makings of being a policeman, that sees that understands that importance. I've known Daniel since he was 14. He's a lifelong resident of the town of Windsor. He wants to serve his community. And there is little to no doubt in my mind that with some additional training and a few more years under his belt, he will continue to serve this community well. And as is with everything, this is a teaching moment for us. This is a teachable moment. You know, look at your favorite NFL team. After every game on Sunday, what happens? Right? Win or lose, bad or good, everybody goes into the building, gets on the film, right? Looking at, hey, what can we do better? What did we do good? What did we do bad? Where do we got to make changes? How do we become more efficient and more effective and do a better job? And that's the same thing that we're going to do with this. Is we're into it. We know there's deficiencies there. We're going to work to fix those deficiencies and move forward.
What do you say to those who?
I'm sorry, is there a federal investigation into the incident also?
Yes, sir, there is.
Can you tell us about that? Is that FBI?
The FBI came with the Virginia State Police on Monday. They asked for certain access to things. That access was granted, questions answered that they had, and materials provided to them.
Have you spoken to Lieutenant Nazario?
I have not.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm glad that he's okay. You know, at the end of the day, I'm glad that nobody got hurt. That situation ended in the best way it could have. I wish he would have complied a whole lot earlier. You know, again, I'm not going to, I'll say this, I'm going to own what we did wrong. I can't speak for him, but I'm going to own what we did. My guys missed opportunities to verbally de-escalate that thing and change that outcome.
Is he owed an apology for that?
I don't believe so.
Why so?
You know, Lieutenant Nazario took certain actions that created where we got to, and I think that, you know, we'll let the court sort that part of it out and litigate that part.
From the onset, do you think the officers handled it appropriately in at the BP gas station, getting out of their cars with their guns drawn? Do you think that was an appropriate use of force that they were showing there?
Based on the things that they saw, the way they interpreted it, the beauty of where we are today is we can watch this thing back at 1 frame per second, right? In the real world, this is unfolding. Those officers are having to make decisions based on what they see. Those decisions are based on what are their training, what are their experiences, what have they seen in the past. Is the way they did that maybe the way I would have handled it? Maybe not. But based on the current law, the case law that's in place on how we deal with traffic stops, I think it was legal.
Sir, what specific incidents, what specific incidents led to those officers deciding they needed to get out of the cars with their guns drawn?
It was a totality of the circumstance, everything they had seen to that point.
Can you be more specific?
The vehicle had no visible tag that they could run. The vehicle was tinted out. You can't see how many occupants are inside, what's going on inside the vehicle. The vehicle slowed but didn't come to a stop. It passed multiple locations where it could have safely pulled from the roadway and continued and then cut across 4 lanes of traffic into that final location.
So,
You mentioned,
Probably.
you mentioned the lieutenant, you own what your police officers did, but you also mentioned, I guess, what the lieutenant did everything that he needed to do as far as, like, what do you think he did wrong there?
It's not my place to judge what he did wrong. I just wish he would have complied quickly and followed the officer's commands.
Do you believe that the lieutenant did the right thing as far as he claimed he was trying to drive to a well-lit location, and in the event that, you know, something that's played out on a national stage doesn't happen? And do you feel that the lieutenant did the right thing in that situation? And then what is your advice then to the community who might
Here's what I tell folks. Look, I've been doing this job 20 years. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff out on the highways. There are things that we look for from people when we initiate a traffic stop. We're not immune to understanding other people's perceptions. I mean, we all see this world through a different lens. Perception's reality for folks. It really is. And where we are is that, you know, when the officers initiate a traffic stop, if you're not going to stop right away, turn your 4-way flashers on. Slow down. That lets us know, hey, you're there. We know you're there. put a hand out the window, point to where you're going to go to stop, pull in quickly. If it's at nighttime, turn your overhead lights on. I'm going to tell you, we're watching your hands. The hands is what hurts us, right? It's not your feet, it's not your arms, it's your hands. So keep your hands up on the steering wheel for us. At the end of the day, I truly believe that encounter would have lasted about 2 minutes had he just pulled over and presented the things he was asked for. The officers likely would have gave him a warning. And I can tell you there's no disrespect in this town for the United States military. We are a corridor between Hampton Roads and Metro Richmond. You've got all the Army facilities and everything up in Petersburg. You've got Langley Air Force Base, all of the naval facilities down here on this end. We encounter service members out here regularly, and very regularly they're given warnings and sent on their way. At the end of the day, it's an unfortunate incident, and I'm hopeful that we can all grow from this experience. Yes, it's brought some very negative attention to a very quiet, small community. I'm sure most of you never even knew we were here, and we like to keep it that way. So, like I said, we look forward to growing and moving forward from this event and taking this as a teachable moment to better ourselves as an agency, to better ourselves individually as officers, and overall to better the community that we're here to serve.
Chief, I didn't introduce myself earlier. Eugene Daniel, 13 News Now. To be fair to me, I've only been here 6 months, so there's a lot of places I hadn't known existed yet.
I understand.
I want to clarify something. Did you say earlier that Officer Gutierrez was the field, he was training, and so he, in that moment, they're taking the lead from him because he was training.
Correct. And when whoever asked the question, to their credit, about what that moment was, where why we wanted to keep Crocker and what we saw, that's where that potential came from. Is that he's not that guy that has that time on, so he's following the lead of that officer. But even a new officer, fresh out of the academy, still in his field training phase, he saw those moments to try to capture that and de-escalate that thing verbally, and he tried to do it. And that just says volumes to me of a guy who understands what's going on. And in that moment, even under all that stress and pressure, he still saw that, identified it, and attempted to fix that. And I respect that for him.
The other question with that, when did you say that Officer Crocker came on to the force? I know you said it was from the last year, but did you say?
It was May of last year, and he the 16th, 18th maybe, somewhere around there. I don't have it in front of me.
And then you said that you've been listening to a lot of groups, right?
Yes, sir, I have.
Elephant in the room, obviously you mentioned how the town of Windsor, the police department, this community has a love and appreciation for military, but again, we are talking about a black man and the stop those things. The reason I bring it up, the NAACP local chapter says it still hasn't had the opportunity to speak with you one-on-one about this incident.
No, and we're going, and so part of our long-term strategy, and what we're doing is we're going to have these council work sessions on Thursday nights for the foreseeable future. Tuesday nights, I'm sorry. And part of that is going to be, we're going to bring in our stakeholders. We're going to talk to them. What do you see? What are your concerns? And what are some things you'd like us to do? What are some things we can do? Here's kind of our plan going forward, and let's collaborate a little bit on this and see where we can go. Is it going to make everybody happy? No. Are we going to have some conversations that make some people probably uncomfortable? I'm sure we are, but we're going to work through it, and we'll get there. We have a long road ahead of us, but we're going to get there.
Any other questions? I told you we'd try to wrap up in about 20 minutes or so.
How about hiring
Last one.
more diverse officers? Are you committed to getting African Americans onto the force? Or?
Absolutely. I don't think. I think for our size, we're pretty diverse. We have 7 full-time officers, 2 auxiliaries. I'm down a position now, but prior to that, I have an African American sergeant who's my head DT instructor, who's an auxiliary officer. I had 2 officers of Hispanic descent, Officer Gutierrez and Officer Rios. And I think that for as small as we are, I don't know that it's an identical mirror of our community, but it is diversity. One of my biggest problems is keeping good officers. In the last couple of years, I've lost several to the Virginia State Police, to the City of Newport News. Again, it's being able to stay competitive with the pay salaries in this area. Who wants to work in Windsor for $45,000 a year when they can go to Chesterfield and make $90,000? So, you know, I'm in competition for the best and the brightest, and you know, with what I have to offer, sometimes I don't necessarily get what I want.
All right, listen, thank you, everybody. Appreciate, hope you got what you needed. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.